What's cracking with y'all? It's your boy Prince, the Hustle God, aka Wise the Warlock, and it is a cool black affair. Shout out to the mighty LDBC, LDBC only, LDBC everywhere. We gotta do an analysis and a comparison on who I consider the yin-yang twins of boxing, and that's Gervonta Tank Davis and Terrence Bud Crawford. Before we do that, check out trilltalk.net. Check out the Simple Truth Network, Black Gent Grooming Company, as well as Ellie Armand and 94 Films. 94 Films on YouTube, as well as HFO The Firm. Alright, so Tank Davis, a multi-division champion, with suspect names on his resume. Very suspect names on his resume. We can say past his prime Gamboa, we have Leo Santa Cruz after he's had a loss or two. We have Jose Pedraza, which was possibly his best name as far as closest to their prime. I'd say some UK guy he got his belt from. And we got 3 weight divisions that he was a champion, and I did make a mistake in my pound for pound list. I counted 129 as a weight class. It's not a weight class. He was a champion at 130, 135, and 140. And what seems to be, I think, his only legitimate belt was the IBF, and I think that was at 130. But I think it was WBA and WBA at 140 and 135, and both are what we consider junior varsity belts, not actual belts. How? Because Josh Taylor is undisputed at 140, and Devin Haney is currently undisputed at 135. So there are no other belts to have. That said, again, we have basically Tank Davis, who is a megastar, the best fighter in the world, a superstar who it doesn't matter who he fights. And when we look at his resume, he's undefeated, quote unquote, a champion in some people's eyes, but hasn't made any of the big fights. He truly had the potential to be pound for pound number one, and has the potential to be pound for pound number one if he just makes any of the big fights. If he makes all of them in and around his weight class, there's no reason why he can't be pound for pound number one. Yet he's active on social media and not as active against the names that he's speaking about. And if we flip to the other side, which is why this is called the yin-yang twins of boxing, you have Terrence Crawford, who I believe started at 135. 135, became champion, became undisputed at 140, and then became champion at welterweight, which makes him a 3-weight division champion as well. But when we look at his resume, we look at Jeff Horn, we look at Jose Benavidez, we look at Victor Postol, Ndongo, Ricky Burns, Felix Diaz, Hank Lundy, a bunch of, and the same applies across the board, but I'm focusing on him, but a bunch of who the hell is that, or what have they done before or since. And aside of having belts, what name cachet do they actually hold? And he could also be, granted, he is pound for pound number one, but illegitimately so, because he could have fought Adrian Broner, he could have fought Yordenis Ugas, he could have fought Manny Pacquiao multiple times, he could have fought Earl Spence before this fight was in talks now. He could have fought a prime Sean Porter, he could have fought Keith Thurman, he could have fought so many of the names that if he would have fought all of those guys and won, he would be one of the greatest fighters in the history of boxing. Except when we look at the actual names that he does have on his resume, it's really diminished down to two, and that's Kell Brook and Sean Porter. Outside of that, we can't really say any of those guys have done anything for us. And his biggest win in one of his eyes is the Ricky Burns fight, and aside of that, the Yuriorkis Gamboa fight. And it's like both of those guys before weren't the best fighters in the world, and both of those guys after turned out to be not elite level fighters, and were made example of on multiple occasions. And also, not to overlook the fact that he also takes shots at people on social media on a regular basis, whether it's the big Charlo, the small Charlo, Earl Spence, any fighter he seems to have some sort of tension with, except these are fighters he's yet to be in the ring with. And I'm starting to see similarities and draw parallels between the two. So when we actually look at these guys as pound for pound fighters, they both are equally questionable because of the quality of their resumes. And then when we look at them as fighters overall on the elite level, until they are tested by prime fighters, I would also say they're questionable there. Again, shout out to the mighty LDBC, LDBC only, LDBC everywhere. It is, was, and always will be a cool black affair. Again, check out the HFO firm, 94 Films, trilltalk.net, everything Junior the Truth, everything LDBC. Till next time, guys. And this is a part one. There will be a part two.